This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. The UAW has been in the news for all the wrong reasons over the last year, but it just scored a victory. Workers at GM and LG Energy's Ultium battery plant in Ohio overwhelmingly voted to organize the plant. This is good news for the UAW, but it doesn't surprise us since it's a heavily unionized area. The Detroit automakers are building battery plants near existing unionized factories so they have ready access to workers. So we expect the UAW to organize those plants too. For us, the real test will come when non-unionized automakers start opening battery plants in the U.S. And the big question is whether the UAW will be able to organize them. Even though Tesla says it's false, there are more reports coming out of China that the company is cutting back on production there. Specifically, Reuters reports that Tesla will stop producing the Model Y for the last week of December. That would eliminate about 13,000 units at current production rates. Tesla has been cutting prices and offering more incentives in China as demand appears to be cooling off. The overall car market in China fell 9% last month, and the market is weakening faster than expected, even with COVID restrictions starting to ease up. Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, the United States will become a global player in battery EV production by the end of the decade. That's one of the things we learned at the SAE North American International Propulsion Conference. By the end of the decade, North America will have 75 to 80% of the supply chain it needs and will be cost competitive with China. Even so, the U.S. will still rely on some battery materials coming from China until 2035. As we've told you before, the SAE Propulsion Conference follows Chatham House rules, so we can tell you what we learned at the conference, but we can't tell you who said it or what company they work for. But we can tell you that this information comes from one of the biggest battery companies in the world.
At Schaeffler, we pioneer motion. Electrifying mobility, manufacturing smarter, reducing CO2 emissions, making energy production clean. Schaeffler pioneers motion to advance how the world moves.
Quote, create the most extreme final version of the Ford GT, close quote. That was the brief given to Multimatic, the Canadian company that builds Ford's supercar, and what it came up with is the Ford GT Mark IV, which pays homage to the 1967 version of the GT with the same name. That car was built for maximum track performance, and so is this one. Truly a track-only car, the new GT Mark IV features a unique version of the GT's twin-turbo EcoBoost engine with a larger displacement, a proper racing gearbox, and a completely new carbon fiber body stretched over a new chassis that has a longer wheelbase and is made of an adhesive bonded honeycomb aluminum construction. With the regular GT easily topping $500,000, you know this car ain't cheap. Buyers will not only have to plunk down $1.7 million, but they have to go through a new application process just to get their hands on one of the 67 being built. And speaking of vehicle pricing, Hyundai revealed the price of the Ioniq 6 for the UK. It will cost a little under £47,000 or around $57,500. If that seems a little pricey, it's important to note that this is the rear drive version with the bigger 77 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It also comes in all-wheel drive, but it's not saying how much that increases price. In the US, Hyundai will offer another rear drive version as well that comes with a smaller 53 kilowatt-hour battery, so we should be able to expect a significantly lower starting price. And the Ioniq 6 is built on the Hyundai Group's E-GMP EV architecture, and soon the vehicles built on that platform will be getting a performance and range boost. It's going to integrate ST Microelectronics' new silicon carbide power module into the inverter for its EV drive units. The power modules are smaller and can handle higher operating voltages, which allows for faster charging, better vehicle dynamics, and improved efficiency. But the Hyundai Group is not saying the exact gains it expects to see. It specifically says the Kia EV6 will get the new modules, but other E-GMP vehicles include the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and 6, as well as the Genesis GV60. GM CEO Mary Barra spoke to the Automotive Press Association in Detroit yesterday, and here are some of the topics she covered. GM already locked up all the raw materials it needs to make 2 million electric vehicles in North America and China by 2025, and is now working on securing supplies from 2026 to 2030. When it comes to next year's UAW negotiations, she says job security and proper compensation will be the top issues. She also denied that union contracts mean GM has higher costs than non-union automakers. Here's a direct quote: "Just because you're union doesn't mean you're more expensive." She predicted that new vehicle sales in the U.S. next year will hit 15 million units, well above the 14.1 million for this year. And she would like employees working back in the office because, and I quote, "a company culture has to be nourished." Barra also wants a more diverse workforce and a culture of inclusion because she said, no one wants to feel excluded, and besides, you get more out of your people when they feel included. A diverse workforce is important, Barra said, because a greater diversity of views leads to better business decisions.
We want to know what drives your testing. OTA, connected car, diagnostics, remote testing. Intrepid Control Systems is here to help you work from anywhere. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
After Russia invaded Ukraine, pretty much all Western automakers closed down their plants in Russia, and Chinese automakers are racing in to fill the void. While sales of light vehicles are down about 60% this year in Russia, Chinese brands nearly doubled their sales in November compared to January. They now control more than 30% of the market, up from under 10% at the beginning of the year. And next year, that's expected to increase to 35%. Overall car sales in Russia are expected to come in around 600,000 units this year and then rebound to 800,000 units in 2023. NIO continues to expand its battery swapping capabilities as it just announced it's going to install 20 battery swapping stations in Germany. By the end of next year, NIO hopes to have 120 swapping stations in Europe. Like Tesla with its supercharger network, NIO could have a real advantage if battery swapping starts to catch on with other automakers. Cadillac's hand-built Celestiq is a beautiful electric sedan with loads of new technology. But will the company attract enough buyers that are willing to pay more than $300,000 for the vehicle? Well, on Autoline After Hours, Tony Roma, the chief engineer of the vehicle, says the model is already sold out for its first year.
We already have quite a few hand raisers, like many more than we're going to be able to build in the first year or 18 months. So yes, we're going through the process of, who's the right person to have it, and who's going to be the right person for the brand. That's something, honestly, I'm not even involved in. There's a whole different group of people that are going to figure this out. It's a fantastic problem to have, that we have so much interest.
Hey, Tony shares a lot of great info about the Celestiq in that episode, and you can watch it right now on our website or YouTube channel. I did something I've never done before. I asked a car company to give me something for free, and you've seen it this whole time. This sweater. How could I go the whole show without talking about it? Well, actually what I said is if you send me one, I'll wear it on the show. It's exactly what they did. The company has actually been selling holiday gifts since the early 2000s, and they were originally sold out of the old Walter P. Chrysler Museum. Mopar specifically has been marketing holiday gift ideas for close to 15 years, and all the designs are done in-house. This sweater is $80, so I don't know how you feel about that, but it does feel like it's nicely made and made out of a soft material. But there are other gift ideas, like matching socks to the sweater, wrapping paper, mugs, and much more. We'll provide a link if you'd like to see that. But that's all for today's show. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering, boost your game. And by Scheffler, we pioneer motion. Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details, and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.